Okay, great. Well, welcome everyone. The Idaho Scam Jam Alliance is so excited that you're all here today and that we're here with you. So before we start, I just wanted to go over a brief background on the Idaho Scam Jam Alliance. I'll cover some ground rules as well, and then I'll also go over just the backgrounds on our speakers today, and then we'll go ahead and dive right in. So a brief background is the Idaho Scam Jam Alliance is a broad-based coalition of nonprofit organizations and state agencies. We educate and arm the public with the tools they need to recognize and stay protected from fraud and identity theft. And so with fraud and scams, it's not a question of if, it's a question of when you are targeted for fraud. We all have a tendency to think we are invincible, but the statistics prove that scammers are successful. And so we don't want you to let this happen to you, your family member, or your neighbor. And a few ground rules before we begin. Participants can leave the class at any time. It's not a requirement for you to have your camera on for this session, so you can turn it off or on, whatever you're most comfortable with. Everyone's microphones will be muted. If you have any questions, please ask them in the chat. And if you're not familiar with Zoom or chat, your chat box is at the bottom of your screen. You'll see a little chat logo and you can click on it, and we'll be monitoring that the whole time. And then we'll also do questions at the end for that. Please stick to professional language or behavior only during this class. And one more ground rule is that this session will be recorded. So if you wish to not be recorded, you can either turn your camera off, or if you're all right with it, you can leave it on. So a brief background on our speakers today. Our first speaker that we have listed is Ed Fritz. He is the Crime Prevention Supervisor for the Boise Police Department. He has been in this role for the past 7 years with an emphasis in business crime prevention. Ed is the current president of the Idaho Crime Prevention Association and chair of the Organized Retail Crime Association of Idaho, which he helped found in 2015. And he is a graduate of Boise State University. And our next speaker, Rochelle, she has served as a consumer specialist in the Idaho Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. As a consumer specialist, Ms. Leteau has provided presentations statewide to give Idahoans the knowledge and tools they need to protect themselves from fraud. She also helps resolve written complaints between consumers and businesses through the Consumer Protection Division's Informal Dispute Resolution Service. And our next speaker, Danae Joubert, is the Investigations Manager for the Better Business Bureau, Northwest and Pacific, and she has been with the BBB since 2014. And then our final speaker is Renee Cheriton, and she has worked with several teaching and training venues for years in various capacities. She presently works as a consumer protection specialist for the Idaho Attorney General's Office and has done so for 13 years. And in this role, she counsels, assists, and advises consumers regarding their rights and responsibilities as Idaho consumers. And she's passionate about educating Idahoans about the knowledge and tools they need to protect themselves from identity theft and scams. So again, thank you all for being here today. We're all so excited to see you. And I'll go ahead and hand it over to our speakers.
Okay, I'm going to get myself unmuted, and I'm going to minimize the participants list. Let me get my screen shared, and then we can get started. All right. I think we're all there, and I think you can see me, so yay, and success. I really want to thank you all for taking time out of your day to join us. My name is Rochelle Leteau, and I'm with the Idaho Attorney General's Consumer Protection Division. Joining me today during this presentation is Danae Joubert with the Better Business Bureau and Ed Fritz with the Boise Police Department. Today, we are going to teach you the tricks that criminals use when they're trying to defraud you. And we are also going to share with you examples of how criminals and scammers have used these tricks against Idahoans. All right, scams. Frankly, it can sometimes seem like there are a million of them out there. There are lottery scams, there are fake check scams and puppy scams, and it can be a bit overwhelming. Danae, Ed, and I, we hear about scams every single day, and we get paid to know kind of the mechanics of how these work. But for regular people like yourselves, like I said, it can be overwhelming, but you do not need to know all the intricacies of a specific scam in order to avoid falling victim to that scam. So I'm assuming that most of you all here today know what a record player is. We're all old enough to have used those. So you probably understand what I mean when we say somebody sounds like a broken record. And scammers often sound like a broken record. They say the same things over and over and over again, and they use the same tricks over and over and over again because they've found out that they work. But if you recognize those tricks, you can prevent yourself from becoming a victim and emerge from an encounter with a scammer with your money and your personal information safe and secure. Today, we're going to run through 6 very easy to remember signs of a scam, and I think we can just dive in. Oh, real quick, I do want to mention to you all that some scams will meet all 6 of these signs. Others may meet only 1 or 2. Something does not have to meet all 6 signs in order for it to be a scam, all right? So our first sign of a scam is surprise. I want you to imagine that you're walking down a sidewalk after dark, and all of a sudden, out of nowhere, somebody jumps up and yells, "Boo." Think about how you might react. Would you scream? Would you let some colorful language fly maybe? Would you turn tail and run? Would you lash out at the person? Any of those might be your reaction to that encounter. More important than how you react, I want you to consider whether or not you would think before you react. Probably not. When you are startled or surprised, you often react without thinking. And that is why scammers use the element of surprise on victims. They want to catch you off your guard and have you react without thinking things through. I'm going to throw to Ed. Ed, I believe you have a really good example of a scam that uses the element of surprise.
We do, and these scams can be both a good surprise or a bad surprise that goes along with it. A good surprise is going to be something where we've seen like with lottery scams in the past, where just this year, Boise police has taken multiple reports from folks that saying that they got a phone call that they won Publishers Clearinghouse and had millions and millions of dollars waiting for them in a new car, which is a great surprise for anyone to receive. In these cases, what they were instructed to do to receive their winnings was they had to pay something up front, whether it's taxes or other fees, shipping fees, things of that nature. So we had one victim send $3,200 in money orders through the mail to the scammers as instructed. We had another mail multiple checks totaling $11,000 to an address. And finally, we had a person that was even convinced to actually send physical cash through the mail hidden inside the pages of magazines. You know, a bad type of scam would be ones we see like the Social Security scams, where we don't want to have our information compromised, but people will call us up and say that, but usually posting as law enforcement, call up and say that you've had your Social Security compromised, has been used for fraud. Many recent victims we've had reports of have claimed an officer has called them from Texas and mentioned things such as rental cars, drugs, things of that of nature, and ultimately surprise them into the situation and convince them to send thousands and thousands of dollars, either by buying gift cards or wiring money. One really unfortunate victim we had this year lost over $700,000 through wire transfers and gift cards. Renee?
Danae,
Rachel?
yes. Danae, did you have any were you going to share a scam in this one too? I'm sorry, I forgot.
That's okay. No, not on this slide, the next
Okay.
one.
All right, so we're going to jump to the second sign of a scam, and that I like to think of that as hurry up. Scammers are going to pressure you to act now, to act quickly. They are going to tell you something is an emergency or that it's time sensitive. They're going to tell you that if you don't hurry up and act now, that something terrible may happen. Your social security number may be suspended, or somebody will come and arrest you. They also may say that if you don't act now, you're going to miss an amazing opportunity. Maybe you're not going to be able to invest in some great scheme that's going to get you thousands and thousands of dollars. So again, they're going to pressure you to act now. What we would like you guys to do, if you are being pressured to act now, and this may be somebody who calls you on the phone, but it could also be somebody that knocks on your door and is trying to sell you something. Slow everything down. Slow that interaction down. Reverse yourself if you can. You can thank whoever it is for calling. You can ask. I have to apologize. We love our Zoom meeting. My dog is having a fit. Slow that interaction down. Tell the person thank you for contacting, and that you need to research it yourself and get back with them. Check out whatever situation it is on your own. And I think Danae this is the one where you've got an example of how scammers make people hurry up.
Yes. In fact, I just received this scam email yesterday, and I think it's really important to share. I call it the porn scam. And what happens is people are contacted through chat, or in my case, through email, stating that they've gotten access to my device through the internet. They've stated that I'm a regular visitor to adult websites, and they have access to everything that I've done. And more importantly, they've backed all of that interaction up on their own servers so they can send it to my friends and family and everyone on my social media if I don't comply. And so they ask for about $1,400. They usually want it sent through Bitcoin, which can be complicated for people because many people don't even know how Bitcoin works. And so you're desperate to set that up. In other cases, you might be sending gift cards. They state you can't reply. You have 48 hours to reply or everything's going out to your friends and family. And so the sad part of this is once you pay, they keep asking for more money. And all of a sudden you're in an extortion scheme where there's just no stop to it. And in sad cases, we've actually seen young men commit suicide because they've been so afraid of family members finding out about this scheme and they're out of money and they've borrowed from everyone that they can. So it's not true. They don't have access to anything. And so just don't even respond and delete these kinds of emails.
Another example that we get quite frequently are arrest or warrant type scams. Now, oftentimes scammers will be able to use technology methods to make the phone call, that the phone number that appears on your caller ID as it's coming from the Boise Police Department or other law enforcement in these cases. We had a recent victim that received a phone call and was told she had a warrant for her arrest, and police were actually coming to her house to arrest her unless she agreed to go to a store, purchase gift cards to pay her fine in this case. In this case, she didn't want to be arrested. No one wants to be arrested. So she agreed to pay and purchased $8,000 in gift cards, giving the numbers to the scammers over the phone, which they then quickly used, and the money was lost.
All right, thank you both. I'm gonna pop us to our third sign of a scam. I've kicked my dogs out so we can talk again without hearing whining. Our third sign of a scam is what's your number? Scammers are going to try to get your personal information. And this often comes in the form of numbers. It might be your social security number, credit card number, Medicare number. I think we're gonna hear about Medicare scams at next week's Lunch and Learn. Bank account number, you name it. And if you provide personal information to scammers, it is going to greatly increase your risk of possibly experiencing identity theft. So if you don't know with 100% certainty that who you are dealing with is who they say they are, or represents who they say they are, don't give your personal information to them. In general, most government agencies are not going to contact you by phone. And like Ed mentioned, they can make their phone numbers look like they're coming from a local number when really they're calling from the other side of the world. So don't necessarily trust your caller ID either if you get a call out of the blue with somebody saying they represent the IRS. If for some reason you think a business or a charity or a government agency might be trying to contact you, hang up and again, do the research yourself. Verify the real phone number for that organization or business or government agency. If you still use a phone book, look it up in the phone book, look it up online, and then initiate contact yourself. Again, don't give just any random person who calls any personally identifiable information like that. And it's not always numbers that scammers are looking for. Sometimes they're looking for access into your life. And I think, Ed, you wanted to talk about how scammers access folks' lives.
That's correct. And so in that kind of that personal access they're looking for, we had a local victim who ran a business out of his home computer. So one day he had a pop-up appear on his screen claiming that his computer was infected with viruses, all sorts of bad stuff. And he needed to call the phone that popped up on his screen to kind of help them through this whole process. So he did as he was instructed and talked to what they claim was a tech repair person with the company that walked him through a process, which actually gave him remote access to install the company's software on his computer. So as a service, he agreed to pay them $300 to monitor his computer, monitors all his problems, and protect his information that he has his computer. So a few months later, he got a call back from the same tech person claiming that the software is no longer compatible. And as a nice company, they were going to refund his initial payment of $300. So something happened in the process, and as opposed to giving his $300 back, they claimed to accidentally have given $30,000 too much back in this case, and they needed to get their money back. And so he claimed a great story of not wanting to get fired, things of that nature. The person checked their bank account, and sure as heck, it had $30,000 too much dollars in there. And so what he started to do was following the process. The fastest way they wanted to get their money back was A, go to your bank and wire $10,000 to an account they provided to him. B, they were going to have him go to the first store and buy $10,000 in gift cards and give them the gift card information. And the last one, the C, they're going to have him go to another store and buy another $10,000 in gift cards and give them the information that way to pay back all the money. So they kept him on the phone the entire time. He went to his bank, completed the transaction. He went to the first store, tried to buy $10,000 in gift cards. And luckily enough, he was questioned by the cashier, who called the manager, who called actually the police department. And we were able to prevent him from losing any more money from that. And luckily enough, through working through his bank, he was able to get that original $10,000 back. But what they had actually done when he gave him access to his computer is he also gave him access to all his checking accounts, all his banking accounts. And the $30,000 that they accidentally gave him was actually his own personal money they moved from one account to another, which made it look like he was giving too much.
That's crazy. Danae, do you have any
I do.
examples?
I want to talk about customer service phone numbers being spoofed online. It's really important not to Google or ask Siri or Cortana for a phone number of a major corporation while you're on your cell phone or even on your computer. A lot of times we've found that scammers and big crime organizations are actually setting up fake customer service numbers to pop up when you're searching for those. One example I'll give you is it happened to Expedia. And people Googled the customer service number for Expedia. and they called it, and it sounded like a call center. It had a greeting. It had, press 1 to talk to a customer service agent. And when they got the person on the phone, the agent asked for their email address to look up their Expedia account. And with Expedia, I don't know if they've changed it. I hope they did. But the scammer could then go to the Expedia website, look up the person's travel itinerary, and then know everything about the consumer that was calling. And then the consumers wanted to, of course, change a flight or change a hotel room. And the scammer pretended to do that. And then they asked for that consumer to pay them in gift cards. And that should be a red flag. Major companies never going to ask you to pay using gift cards, but they told the consumers that their system was down and that was the only way that they could get payment was to go to Walgreens or Rite Aid and buy Expedia gift cards or hotel.com gift cards to make things change. Well, of course you get there and there's no gift cards that Expedia even offers. So they would tell the customer service agent, hey, my Walgreens doesn't have this gift card. And so they'd say, oh, we'll just get the Visa one, that will work. And then, of course, they asked them to read the numbers off the back of the card, and the money was gone. And then in many cases, these people lost their flights, their hotel rooms, and their vacations were canceled by the scammers. Another example is with employment scams. We see this with Amazon. Amazon's coming to Idaho, to the Napa Valley. You need to be aware of fake job offers on Craigslist, Indeed.com, Monster Jobs. Many times scammers will have you fill out applications asking for social security numbers, your birth date, and you do not have to provide this information, especially when you don't even know who you're really talking to. We've seen a lot of fake Amazon work from home agent positions where they request you set up a bank account. So they do that because they're going to launder money through it. So a lot of those job descriptions usually involve reshipping packages, secret shopping, redirecting wired money. It's just very important that you know who you're dealing with. And Amazon typically does not hire people over Google Chat without at least seeing you in person. So be aware of those kinds of scams.
All right, thank you. All right, we are halfway through our list. Number 4, the fourth sign of a scam is pay up. Scammers are going to ask you for money. They want your money. Their job depends on them stealing from you. That's how they get paid. And in 2019, Idahoans reported losing more than they lost $7.3 million to fraud. And the median amount of money lost by Idahoans was $332. Now, I don't know about all of you, but I don't have $300 just to hand over to some criminal. And when they ask you to pay them, they are going to ask you to pay them in ways that are very difficult for that money to be recovered once it's gone. Both Ed and Danae have mentioned wire transfers or gift cards. Those are very common ways that scammers will request money, and you're going to hear more about gift cards in our next presentation today. A new way that they're starting to ask for payment as well is through apps. Apps like Venmo or Cash App. A lot of us with the pandemic, we've started using those. I didn't even know what Venmo was before March, and now I use it. Scammers are using them too. But again, the thing that all those have in common is that it's very difficult to recover that money once it is gone. And Danae has what really is a heartbreaking story about a woman in Idaho who paid scammers. Danae, do you want to share that?
Sure. This woman, she originally was scammed through the tech scam, where someone claimed to be fixing her computer. And so she gave money to those computer scammers and realized that she had paid them $65,000 and it was gone. Well, months later, a person called her saying he was with the Better Business Bureau and that he was in charge of getting her $65,000 back. And so she trusted him and was excited that someone was going to take on her case. And he made a lot of social calls to her to build her trust over time. He called her for several months, giving her updates to her case. And then he told her that in order to get the money for the refund, that she would need to send money to make that happen, which is amazing to me. And so she ended up sending through different transactions, through cash in the mail. She also would put things in magazines to hide it. She went out and took loans to pay him. She ended up sending him $276,000 in order to get her $65,000 back. But this is a really important thing to, especially if you have older people in your life, to really question why they're sending money and to who. The Better Business Bureau never would come and ask for money in order to investigate a scam and to get you restitution. She was sending things through the mail. In fact, this scammer actually showed up to her house twice in person to collect the money. So they were very bold. She lives in a very small town in Idaho. And, you know, the fact that they would show up in a very nice car and get the money and represent Better Business Bureau is really sad to us. So always be careful about who you're giving money to, and just take that time to step back. Always talk to other people. She kept being told she couldn't tell anyone. And I know Rachel's going to talk, or Shell's going to talk about that a little bit later, but it's really important to tell people when you think something might be wrong.
And Ed, do you want to talk really quick? I know with the holidays coming up, there's a scam that often requires upfront payment that you're a little bit worried about.
One of the scams that we've seen it throughout the year, and luckily enough, it doesn't involve thousands and thousands and thousands of dollars, but still you see people coming back to the well again and again to try to get money for this and that, the next thing. So with the holidays coming up, obviously pets are one of the gifts that people want, puppies, kittens, things like that. We'll see people go online and look for these maybe expensive breeds and try to get them for a great price online. And so you buy them online through sometimes these fake websites, and they'll want the initial payment. And then they'll come back with another reason for get more money from you, whether it's shipping fees, and then cage fees, and then insurance and things like that, and medical fees, and it keeps coming and balling up, as opposed to that, you know, that puppy, that kitten being, you know, a few $100s, and ends up being sometimes thousands and thousands of dollars you end up paying, and unfortunately never receive that cute little pet.
All right, good to know. As like I said, we move into our holiday season. Our fifth sign of a scam is secrecy. As Danae just mentioned, scammers are going to tell their victims that they can't tell anybody what's happening. They're going to really pressure you to keep it secret. They're going to say, don't tell your friends, don't tell your family, kids, spouses, you name it. And the reason they do this is they don't want you talking to someone who might see through their deception. You may be so caught up in a scam, or your loved one may be so caught up in a scam that they don't recognize it. Whereas if they talk to somebody, that person would, and that's why scammers tell you to keep it a secret. Ed, I think you've got a really good example of how the lengths that scammers will go through to tell their victims to keep it a secret.
Correct. And we've worked with a lot of retailers, banks, and stuff there to have people ask questions, and so it's not a secret anymore. And so they'll make the person think twice about the situation. But we had a Social Security scam victim come through, and they were coached through on the phone to keep it a secret and things like that. They actually even went as far as to tell the person that if the cashier asks you why you're buying this gift cards, do not tell them that it's for, you know, investigation. Do not tell them it's for like that. Make up a reason. Here's a good reason you can tell them you're buying these gift cards, because they might not let you buy those gift cards if they know it's for an investigation or whichever else like that. Because once again, they're trained to stop these situations, and so people will actually try to have them make up stories, and so they can buy these gift cards to, you know, get the payment and further the scam.
All right. And Danae, did you have an example you were going to share with us for secrecy as well?
Yes, I wanted to talk about what I call the romance scam. This scam simmers for many months. You do not know you are being scammed until months or a year into it. The scammer usually meets you on a dating app online and quickly asks you to take the relationship offline. So you're no longer paying Match.com or eHarmony or whatever you've met. They spend many months building a relationship with you through text, chatting, through apps, etc. They invest in getting to know you. They know all of, you're in a relationship. They're really good at developing that. The scammer has set up a fake social media presence, usually a Facebook account, LinkedIn, Instagram, even websites showing them as a CEO or officer of a fake company. So when you Google them, you see this amazing person. Sometimes they say they're in the military. But they can never meet you in person. They always have excuses. They're working overseas. There's COVID. They have children. They're in the military. And every time they promise to meet you, they suddenly have to cancel. But the scam comes because they often establish a fake emergency after they've gained your trust. And suddenly they need emergency funds for all kinds of things, overdrawing their bank account, purchasing plane tickets, bailing out their children. And the more you trust them, the more you're giving this money to help them with all of their problems. And so by the time you catch on that this person doesn't really exist, you've given all this money away, and it's usually maybe through cash. You've wired it to accounts. Maybe you've given it to their friend who's going to give it to them. And unfortunately, this person that you've fallen in love with doesn't exist.
All right. Thank you. And we've made it to our final sign of a scam, is that I'm sure we've all heard the old saying, if it sounds too good to be true, it probably is. And that is so true when it comes to scams. But I want you to also reverse that saying in your head, because when it comes to scams, if it sounds too bad to be true, it probably is as well. Scammers are going to claim something that amazing has happened or will happen, or something terrible has happened or will happen. But I can almost guarantee you that your grandchild is not in a Caribbean jail. No one is coming to arrest you. At least I hope they're not coming to arrest you. And unfortunately, you didn't just win $1 million. A healthy dose of skepticism may save you from becoming a scammer's victim. I apologize, I can't remember who was going to share first, if it was Danae or Ed on this.
Yes, I am. I wanted to share about what I call the Facebook government grant scam. This is probably one of the most popular scams that are reported this year. And what happens is someone spoofs someone's Facebook page. So you get an instant message through Facebook Messenger. You think it's from your friend, and they're telling you about a person that you should friend that can give you a grant or information about grants. And all you have to do is pay a fee of about $600 and you will get $15,000. And this sounds reasonable to you to pay the taxes for your grant. They often ask you to send the money through PayPal or wire it, etc. Anyway, and if you don't have that money to give them, they'll even negotiate with you a lesser fee to get that. So be aware of that. But anyway, in this case, in order to get your grant money, you have to give your bank account number to the scammer so they can do a direct deposit into your account. And when they have your bank account information, then they can use that for other purposes. So just know that Facebook, there are no government grants out there or free money for any kind of development work.
All right, and then Ed, did you want to mention rental scams real quickly? Do we have time?
Yeah, so I think every situation we've presented so far has been either that too good to be true or too bad to be true situation. One we see quite frequently throughout the year with the property market is what it is the rental scams. And so we have many people moving to the area. And so what people will do, and they've done many times, is go on to the, these listing sites that actually have apartments, that actually have houses. They will steal all the pictures and all the information, and they will create a free posting, usually on Craigslist or some other free site, at a very good price, trying to entice the person to rent this great property at a very, very, very cheap price. And so all the communication is usually through text or email. Once again, those stories that they cannot meet in person, they can't give you the keys and things of that nature. But once again, the people are enticed by that really great property, that really big house, the 3-bedroom, 2-bath that would normally rent for $2,300. They're getting a great deal on it for $1,000 a month, which who wouldn't want to have a great property like that for that cheap?
All right, well, we are at the end of our 6 signs. I want to run through these really fast for you all just to cement them in your head. So the first sign that we talked about was surprise. Scammers want to startle you, surprise you, catch you off guard so you react in a way that you normally wouldn't. The second sign is that they will say something is urgent or it's an emergency, you have to act now. Third, they are going to ask for personal information or for access into your life, your computer, whatever. Fourth, they're going to try to get money out of you. And when they try to get money, they're going to try to do it in a way that has you pay in a method that is very, very difficult to recover. 5, they're going to want you to keep it a secret. Again, they don't want somebody else recognizing what they're doing to you. Please don't keep it a secret. If you end up in a situation like this, don't be embarrassed. You got to talk to somebody. And 6, and make this your mantra. Again, if it sounds too good or too bad to be true, it probably is. Repeat that to yourself over and over and over again. Now, since you guys all have got these down and know them, I've got a little bit of homework for you, okay? First, I want you to share one thing you've learned today with a family member or a friend. That can be one of the signs of a scam, or it could be one of the stories that Danae or Ed has shared with us. Studies have shown that when people know about a scam, they are 80% less likely to engage with a scammer. And if they do engage with a scammer, they are 40% less likely to become a victim. So if you share what you know, we can all help our friends, family members, neighbors by talking about scams and how to recognize them and hopefully prevent people from becoming victims, which would make Ed, Danae, and I very happy. Second part of your homework is to report scammers. There's a couple different great places that you can do this. One is the Better Business Bureau has a scam tracker. It's bbb.org/scam tracker. Some of the stories that Danae has shared with you today are from that scam tracker. The Federal Trade Commission also has a way to report fraud to them at ftc.gov. That takes you to their main page. If you go there, right on the page is a link to report fraud, and you click on that and follow the directions. And third, and this one I hope none of you have to do this part of the homework ever, but if you do fall victim to a scammer or you know someone who did, please report any lost money to your local law enforcement. As we've mentioned, it can be very difficult to recover that money, but I don't think it's impossible. Ed, do you have any good news stories that might apply to this? Have people gotten money back before?
We do have some success stories from there. So it is a slight hope at the end of the rainbow. At the end of that tunnel like that, we had a local victim wire $110,000 to a scammer because they acted so quickly, because they reported it so quickly. We were able to get back almost $100,000 of that $110,000, which is quite an accomplishment by the bank and everyone else to make that a success.
Oh, that's fantastic. I'm glad to hear that. I'm glad to end on an up note. So again, I want to thank you all who are taking time out of your day to join us. As I mentioned up at the very first slide, I'm with the Idaho Attorney General's Office. Danae is with the Better Business Bureau, and Ed is with the Boise Police Department. All 3 of our organizations are members of the Idaho Scam Jam Alliance. We invite you to check out our website. On there we have tips, we have links to different places to report scams and fraud if you need to. And then we also invite you to follow us on Facebook and Instagram. And with that, I believe that we have maybe a couple minutes if we had any questions come in the chat, or if anybody has any questions now. Let me hit stop share and get myself out of there.
So we did have a question come in from June asking, she got an instant message supposedly from FedEx, but it has a suspicious link. Is this a new scam? And I will say yes, that scam is going around. Do not click on that link.
Plus, we see those with banks. We see those through Amazon shipping. We see those through any other method. Once again, that situation out of the blue that you're not really expecting. And so maybe you're going to that shipment, maybe not. And so especially if you're not getting a shipment, be that much more critical of any link that pops up there before you click on anything.
Yeah, and then Brent asked, is there a legitimate use for gift cards as payment? And that will segue into Renee's presentation, but the answer is no.
And did anybody else have any questions, or are we good to keep rolling?
It says,
Danae, did you see this? Somebody's
oh
asking.
yeah, would I please elaborate on not using Siri, Alexa for a phone number? Yes, so it's just important not to use those to find customer service phone numbers, especially for large corporations. Scammers, we have found, have put fake numbers for Google or Siri or Alexa to pick up as the phone number for those companies. And so in order to figure out what the real phone number for the company is, it's important to go to that company's website directly and look at their contact us section. Don't just take it from a Google search that what pops up as the number as the real number for the company. I also want to add one more scam we're seeing that's kind of new, and this applies for Christmas. Many people will buy Rokus or Fire Sticks or computers. And what we've found is scammers have actually tricked the supply chain, where there'll be information in the packages for customer service to help you set up that equipment. And you call, and it's actually a fake tech company wanting to charge you hundreds of dollars to teach you how to set up your Roku, your Fire Stick, etc. And that is not legitimate. So if that happens to you and you get one of those scam phone numbers in your package, call the company directly to help you set those up. Go to those websites directly. And we're going to be sharing more information on that coming into the holidays, because that's something that's just started. So I've only seen it for customer service so far.
All right. Are we ready for me to get Renee's presentation rolling? All right. I think I'm going to take that as a yes. All right. So I'm going to share my screen again.
While you do that, it looks like we also have a question from Joe about the ftc.gov. He was wondering if there's a phone number for them.
There is, and Renee's going to share it here in a moment.
Great.
You know, I don't know if Renee is going to share that.
Oh, she's not. Okay.
I would say yes, there is. And maybe we can put it when Renee is going through her slides. I will try to put that in the chat, so you've got that phone number as well, okay?
Thanks.
All righty. And with that, Renee, are you unmuted?
I'm good.
Okay.
Good to
so
go.
Go ahead and roll, and I'm going to mute myself.
Very good. Okay, thank you very much. I'm Renee Sheraton. I'm a consumer specialist with the AG's office. I've been here for 13 years. I wanted to talk to you today most specifically about gift cards, because that is the #1 vehicle. We are finding that most scams and scammers rather are requiring. So I wanted to kind of go into deeper detail about that, and that's what we'll do throughout my slides. So I'm really glad that you decided to come today. We're so glad to have a nice audience, and all of us are available within our respective employees to answer any questions after our scam jam. Okay, well, let's rock and roll. First of all, what is a gift card scam? Well, of course, all the scammers are out there, and they're going to call you with, as you've heard already, urgent news, whether good or bad. with their convincing story. And then of course they're going to pressure you to pay them with gift cards to either resolve the problem, whether it be something's wrong with your computer and we need these gift cards to resolve it, or pay any debt that you might owe, even though you likely don't owe a debt. The IRS might call, and of course it wouldn't be the real IRS, but the scammer IRS, telling you there's some fees that you owe and in your back taxes, and they'll take a gift card, thank you, to take care of that, or come and arrest you or whatever, or to receive your cash prize. Common gift cards preferred by scammers, of course, as reported to the Federal Trade Commission, are retail cards that you can buy. They're going to tell you to jog on down to your Walmart and get a gift card, or Walgreens or Target or CVS. And of course, online gift cards such as iTunes, Google Play. These are not all of them, by the way. eBay, Amazon, Stream, or MoneyPack. Again, these are just some of them, not all of them. And gift cards are preferred because once you scratch off that little number in the back of that gift card and you give it to them, your money is gone. It has flown away, almost impossible to track or trace. And I would say probably 99.99% chances to get it back. So you've got to be really on top of your game. Common gift cards, scam scenarios, or a lot of the things that the panel has already spoken to you about. Ed talked about an IRS scam, of course, and they're going to call and tell you that you owe taxes and you got to pay them or else. Of course, they're going to want the gift card. They're going to say you'll be arrested if you don't pay. Maybe someone will call and sound like a state trooper, because that's what they do. They're very good at what they do, and tell you that you failed to show up for jury duty. So now you have a warrant for your arrest. And of course, you can resolve the issue by going down to Walmart and purchasing a gift card and giving it to them as a bond until that case is cleared. Any company or organization might call you saying you've won a contest or a prize, but of course there are fees and taxes. And the way they'd like for you to take care of that is with a gift card. You've heard of the grandparent scam. I'm sure most of you have. That works with the grandparent scam as well. You might get a call from Idaho Power that tells you, we're from Idaho Power and you're behind in your payments. And unless you pay us, and of course they're going to ask for a gift card in most instances, we're going to shut off your power or water. And some people, they actually do it. I know some of you put things up for sale on Craigslist. Service member might be selling something on Craigslist. Of course, they're not a service member, but they're going to portray themselves as one, and they need to be deployed. And you know, they'll want to buy something from you. They're going to send you a big check, but if you'll take the amount that you're owed, and tell you different ways to handle the rest of that money, you've got to be really careful about that. And of course, romance scams originating rather on Craigslist or another website, those are taking an uptick, ladies and gentlemen. So be aware of those as well. During this COVID scenario that we're going through, there's a lot of lonely people out there, and they're going to fall prey to this because they're lonely. They don't get out. There's nowhere to go. You've really got to be on top of your game in a lot of different scenarios. So you got to keep that in mind. Next, please. And of course, as I said, they are the #1 payment method scammers or imposters demand. They will say anything to get your money. They know how to play on your hopes or your fears or your sympathies. And of course, the gift cards are their favorite because, as I've talked about, you give them that code on the back and you might as well kiss your money goodbye. Victims who fall for the original ploy are often asked even to go back to the store to get additional gift cards. So once you've given them a payment with gift cards, they think, well, they might be up for getting some more gift cards for me. And sometimes if they're good enough, if the scammers are good enough, it works. So you've really got to think about things before you do them in this day and age. It's crazy town out there. Remember, and this is very important, gift cards are for gifts. They're never for payments, never. Thank you. Next slide. And again, as Ed said, no government agency or reputable business will ever ask for a payment with gift cards. If they're reputable, it's not going to happen. The way to not fall victim to these scams, and I want to go to hang up on scam callers immediately, but better yet, don't pick up any number you don't recognize. If it's not from Aunt Sally or Uncle Tom or your son or your daughter and you recognize their number, that's one thing. But if you don't recognize that number, the best way to prevent yourself from becoming a victim of a scam is just don't touch that dial. Remember what they used to say back in the day? Don't touch that dial. Well, I'm telling you, don't touch that phone. Don't come within a 100-mile radius of it if indeed you don't recognize that number. Don't call it up to find out who it is. If you receive an email demanding a gift card, please delete it. If you have any doubt or concern that the call or email is legitimate, you call them up. There's someone on the phone, they say they're from the power company, and don't take their word for it. You call up the power company. Hey, am I late on my bill? Okay. If they're the IRS and you think, well, God, maybe I didn't pay my taxes, you're going to call up the IRS. We'll give you the numbers and we'll tell you, and they will tell you, no, you don't owe us anything. You're good. You always call back to make sure that where you're at, okay? You're going to contact the company directly yourself. Don't call the number on your voicemail. Don't respond to the email or click any of the links inside of it. Again, initiate that call yourself. And of course, if anyone offers to pay you money to buy gift cards, say no thanks. Nope. Okay, and you got to know that millions are lost every year to gift card scams. In 2019, losses from gift or reload cards amounted to, and I've got to move this down a little bit because I want to be able to read the amount, to $103 million. Nearly 667 million was lost to all imposter scams, and that covers all of them, 667 million. That's a 34% increase from 2018. Fraud losses totaled more than 109 billion overall last year. And ladies and gentlemen, those are just the folks that reported them. Most people, they won't report. They'll be embarrassed or what have you. So again, it's so important. I know life is stressful right now with the elections and with COVID. Nevertheless, a lot of scams are taking advantage of all of this, and you must be on top of your game. You must be on top of it 24/7. Next, please. And as you probably can imagine, the problem is getting worse. Scammers are expected to steal over 2 billion in 2020, and 2020 is almost over. Can you imagine what 2021 is going to be if we don't get a handle on this? We can thwart their efforts by educating ourselves and each other, and we do this by learning how to recognize, prevent, and report fraud like gift card scams, okay? Education is key. Knowledge is power. That's still true today. Absolutely true. And as Rochelle was giving you the homework, tell one person at least every day for the rest of your life, probably, unless something happens where you don't have to. That's very good advice, and we must help each other and prevent each other from becoming victims of scams. Thank you so much. Go ahead. What are you going to do if you believe you are involved in a potential scam? Well, of course, we're open to you, our office, the BBB, certainly the Federal Trade Commission. They want to know about it. We all like to know for our own purposes, You're going to call our office. There's our phone number, 208-334-2424. And of course, any of our specialists can help you determine if you're being scammed, because you may not be sure. And if it's Monday through Friday from 8 until 5, we're here for you. Call the police if you have any concern. You think it might be true. They can help you sort it out as well. So just don't feel pressured. As Rochelle was telling you, anytime you feel pressured or you have to pay them today, you might as well know it's a scam. And never be afraid or embarrassed. And the reason is, these scammers are good at what they do. They try to make you feel that way. So you won't ask for help. And you just can't fall for it. Because today, after all you've learned, you're going to know better, and you'll be able to educate and update all your friends and relations and your churches and memberships where you have them. And again, scammers are extremely good at what they do. If they were not good at what they did, they wouldn't still be out there making a lot more money than you and I are making. And whatever your educational level or financial situation, we can all fall victim to scams. Even those who claim they would never fall for one, guess what? They tell us, we didn't think we'd ever fall for it, but we did. They were that good. They sounded like they knew what they were talking about. They said it with authority. I fell for it. And these are educated people. These are people that make a lot of money. These are attorneys. These are doctors. So please don't be afraid or embarrassed. Last but not least, the Federal Trade Commission is there for you. You can go, there is a phone number, and I'm going to go ahead and give it to you in case you want to write it down. They like you to go online, and so what I'd like to tell you is the phone number they want you to, well, let me see. What I wanted you to do, this is the www.ftc.gov, or the Better Business Bureau is www.bbb.org /scam tracker. They've reported that to you. And of course, anytime you lose money, they want you to certainly, well, you got to call the police. You've got to have a police report. The number, and I may have that, but go ahead, Rochelle, on the next slide. If I don't, I've got it with me. Let me see if I can find it real quick. I'll try and find it at the end of the presentation. Now, as Rochelle has already told you, they're going to tell you to keep it a secret, and I'm not going to talk about it terribly a lot here, but that's a sign. That's a big sign. Don't tell anyone. You have to keep it confidential. So there are times, though, that these scammers, they'll keep you on the line until you actually get to Walmart and are buying those gift cards. So please don't fall for it. Next slide, please. Too often, as I said, victims don't report the crime. We want you to always report a scam, okay? That's the only way law enforcement knows and can educate consumers to prevent future losses. So always report it. Your reports help to bring and build those cases, which help stop these scams and dishonest practices that take your money. So always report gift card scams or gift cards used in a scam as well. That's very important. And you can call our office to report it. The reason our office needs it is because we like to keep an accurate pulse, or as halfway accurate pulse, on the scams that are happening in Idaho. We don't have a lot of tracking and tracing resources. That's why you want to report it to the FTC. But if we get enough calls that say, you know, this is this kind of scam, this is that kind of scam, then we can put out a news release or a consumer alert, and that would be available on our website, and that helps people know what to look out for. Okay, so report these things. Next slide, please. Okay, anyone who demands payment by gift card is always, always, always a scammer. Never buy a gift card, any gift card. And you can see how they look. They're in the grocery store, they're all laid out for you, okay? Never buy a gift card, any gift card for any reason for someone who demands this type of payment over the phone or by email. Go ahead, please. And then, of course, I want to thank you. Just go to ftc.gov and report those things. They'll direct you. I know I have that phone number here. Hold on just 1 second. If you need it, they'll direct you. It is, if you want to write it down, 877-382-4357. Okay, and they answer the phone. Well, they're going to direct you as to where you need to go. It's very good. And they're going to ask you to report it to a certain website. And so just listen real close, and they'll take care of you. So thank you very much. Are there any questions?
So I'm real quick, Renee, I'm going to stop sharing so everybody can see you. All right.
Okay.
And I'm going to add in the chat box, I'm going to type that phone number for the FTC for folks. Okay.
Thank you so much.
We did have a question. Oh,
Yeah.
go ahead, Bethany.
Yeah, oh no, I was just gonna say, we have one question about a student loan. They've been getting scam calls about it, but they don't have a student loan. And that's from Erica. And then
Yes.
really quickly before that's answered, we know it's 1 o'clock, so we do want to respect everyone's time. And so if you do need to drop off right now, feel free to do so.
Yeah, so the student loan scam is a popular scam, and no, it's not a legitimate call, so you can ignore that. I see there's a question too about timeshare sales, and this is a big scam that I investigate a lot, actually. You get a call saying someone wants to rent your timeshare out for a party. Maybe they want to buy your timeshare for a lot of money, more than maybe you even purchased your timeshare for. They claim that they work with an escrow company that looks legitimate, that has a website. They have escrow agreements they've drawn up. They claim that, especially if your timeshare is in Mexico, they claim that you have to pay some sort of Mexican tax. They want you to put money in escrow. And you as a seller never have to put money in escrow for a sale like that. That should be a red flag right there. You may have to pay off your timeshare as far as what you owe, as far as keeping up your maintenance fees to the actual timeshare company that you own your timeshare through in order to sell your timeshare, but you do not have to put anything in escrow. And they do have fake websites that look legitimate. They have the fake escrow company that they work with that look legitimate. Often the addresses for those companies lead nowhere or to virtual office space. What else can I tell you about those if anyone wants to jump in? But
So,
just be wary that people are not usually calling you to buy your timeshare.
yeah, timeshares are really tricky because so many people, you buy them and then you realize you don't use them, and then it's hard to resell them, and they don't retain their value like you hope they would. And we had a complaint from a gentleman, I believe it was over in Meridian this year, and they fell for the scam just like Danae described. They were told they had to put money in an escrow account. I want to say it was about $4,000. And the closing date came and went. They provided our office with all the paperwork they were given. It was all fraudulent. And these folks are almost impossible to track. And both the escrow company and this supposed realtor timeshare buying company, they have websites that are on, I checked them out. I'm like, they look legit.
Yes, yeah, they often try and get accredited with the Better Business Bureau. The best way to sell your timeshare is really to work with your timeshare company. A lot of timeshare companies are now offering buyback programs, and I would definitely look into those if that is something you want to do. Even legitimate companies that claim to help you get out of your timeshare, you have to be very careful with those as well, because you don't want to end up paying thousands of dollars for them to get you out of your timeshare. So yes, there I could go on and on. Maybe we should do a webinar about that sometime. But yeah, start with your own timeshare company. I think that's going to be the best bet. It says, prior to disposing of our timeshare, I was contacted many times by a company who would buy our timeshare or would take the timeshare off our hands. However, it turns out that you must pay for the company to take the timeshare for free. I finally used a company who'll help me. Yes, yeah, be very wary of having to pay for a service like that. There are other companies that can help you, you know, get out of your timeshare without having to pay thousands of dollars. Let's see here. Any other questions? I don't see any, Bethany.
I think that's it. Thank you again, everyone, for attending today. And thank you to all of our speakers just for all of the information that you offered and insight. Before we close, just for everyone that is still on, we know that the registration is a little confusing. So just a reminder for those who there were issues, it's kind of a two-step registration. So you register with the AARP, and then you'll get a link to register for multiple sessions, and you'll go to the Better Business Bureau from there. So just so you are all aware of that. And please go ahead and join us next week. We will be covering Medicare fraud and scams. So thank you, everyone.